We go to the phones, and joining us this morning, good friends from the RNC, Deputy Press Secretary for the RNC, Michael Joyce, joining us here on the program. Michael, good morning. How are you today?
Doing all right. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. There's obviously a lot to talk about with Campaign 2020, but I want to talk about a new website that was launched by the GOP, and also a new ad campaign that kind of goes along with it, the Victims of Socialism. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so this is a project we've been working on for months. And, it's funny, every time we have a 2020 Democratic debate, folks like Julian Castro and other folks on the stage love to say when we call Democrats socialists that's nothing more than a right-wing talking point. So we found some folks who live here who fled from Venezuela and Maduro's oppressive regime down there, and they tell really moving stories. So I really don't want to do it would be an injustice for me to try to speak to their stories, but I want to encourage your listeners to go to victimsofsocialism.org and watch the videos because they're very powerful, and you can't miss these stories.
Well, and Michael, I've had people who have called into this show, and I'm sure there are a lot of talk radio shows throughout the country of people who have called in, and they have fled oppressive regimes, or they've had family members who have fled these regimes, and the stories that they have, and then they look at some of the policies of these candidates, like a Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, the policies that they have, and they get worried, and they're like, guys, we have seen this before. This is not the road we want to go down.
Right, yeah, and their policies have direct consequences on the country, and I think it's very important to show people what those consequences are, because we know that the Democratic Party loves to present these pie-in-the-sky proposals, and, every time we have one of these big end-all, be-all, the federal government will save everything and make everything great for you policies, a lot of the things that they promise turn out to be completely wrong. And I think the last time we had a big program like that was when we passed Obamacare. And, of course, we heard Barack Obama say, if you like your plan, you can keep your plan. If you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. Premiums will go down by $2,500. Of course, premiums went up around the country on average by 25%. In some states like Arizona, it was up over 100% on premiums. So, again, these policies have direct consequences. And it's very important that we show the American people what those consequences are. And I think these videos do a great job of showing that.
I think it is funny when you brought it up earlier, Michael, that Julian Castro and some of these other Democrats are saying that it's right-wing talking points when Republicans accuse the Democrats of being socialist. Am I wrong that there's a self-avowed Democrat socialist running for president and he's in the top tier? And by the way, nobody seems to disagree with any of his policies on that stage?
No, you're absolutely right, because what used to be fringe and outside the mainstream ideas in the Democrat Party have become the mainstream in the Democrat Party. That's why folks like AOC and Ilhan Omar are driving the messaging for Democrats out in Washington, D.C. The Socialist Squad has taken over the House of Representatives. Nancy Pelosi lost control of her caucus, and they're really driving the narrative there. And then, on the debate stage, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, even Joe Biden, they're pretty hand-in-hand with their policies, and that's why, a lot of folks that we talk to all over the country love to ask us, who are you kind of rooting for in the 2020 Democrat field? Who would you love to see that would give you the best chance of beating President Trump? And I can tell you that our polling 100% says that presumptive Democrat nominee will be the best candidate for President Trump to win, because they're going to be on record supporting a socialist agenda. And I don't think the American people are ready for this kind of socialism in our country.
Visiting with Michael Joyce here on the Chad Hasty Show. You bring up which Democrats, or people have asked you which Democrat would y'all like to run against. And Michael, just over the last couple of days, there was a New York Times article, a few others, where it doesn't seem like Democrats are really sold on any of these candidates. And you've got some of these Democrat, quote-unquote, establishment folks who are looking around going, can Hillary jump in? Can Michelle Obama jump in? Can we get somebody else? It just seems like the fundraisers and some of the other folks are not too happy with the current crop of candidates.
Yeah, well, I think their biggest issue right now is there's no clear leader of the Democrat Party. There's no clear vision. The only message that they have is, we want to impeach Donald Trump. And I don't know how you can take that to the American people in 2020, and not just with the presidential race, but Senate and House races too. Democrats here in Washington in the House and the Senate have done absolutely nothing other than try to get this president impeached. The House of Representatives last week, they had 13 votes on naming post offices. So they're not getting anything done. It's hilarious when Democrats say they can walk and chew bubblegum at the same time, because all they're doing is continuing their political vendetta against President Trump, and they're using the legislative branch to do that. So it's pretty ridiculous to me.
Why can't they even get the USMCA trade deal through? And obviously that's a big deal out here in West Texas. It's a big deal, I think, across the U.S. It seems like Canada's on board. It seems like Mexico is on board. It seems like the Republicans are on board. It's just Nancy Pelosi who isn't on board.
Yeah, well, the USMCA is a great deal for y'all. It's a huge win for Texans, Texan ranchers, farmers, manufacturers. Nancy Pelosi won't bring it to the floor for a vote because she doesn't want to give this president another victory between now and Election Day. And he's got quite the laundry list of promises made and promises kept already. So I think Nancy literally just doesn't want to do it to give the president another win. So she's basically saying to farmers across the country, manufacturers around the country, I don't really care about you right now because I care more about defeating President Trump. That's no way to legislate. And I think the American people, when they go vote in 2020, are going to tell Democrats and show them their distrust and their frustration when we have so many things that we need to get done in Washington, starting with the USMCA, tackling the opioid crisis, rebuilding our nation's infrastructure. There's a lot of things we need to get done right now. And all the Democrats are going to do between now and Election Day is continue their baseless impeachment inquiry.
Yeah, Michael, before I let you go, I have to say I was out at the President's rally in Dallas. They're on Radio Row. And I have to say the enthusiasm for President Trump in Dallas. And again, there's probably those in the media who did not expect for the president to fill the American Airlines Center. I think he probably could have filled Cowboy Stadium, which sits 100,000 people. You had 50,000 people who showed up, and everybody was in a good mood. Everyone was excited, and it was a show. It was a production. And Michael, I can tell you this: there are a lot of fired up people in the Dallas-Fort Worth area for President Trump.
Yeah, no, I know Dallas. I know the area around the American Airlines Center well from my Texas days. And, I was looking at the photos, and I think what people don't realize is just how large the area is around the stadium. And so when you see those pictures, I mean, my goodness, I think there were 20,000 people outside. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. If you look at the fundraising right now, the energy around this president and the enthusiasm for his policies, it's easy to see why Democrats are very worried about their prospects of winning in 2020.
Excuse me, have the impeachment inquiry, fake inquiry, has this had any impact on fundraising?
Yeah, we raised $15 million in 72 hours the day that Nancy Pelosi announced that she's moving forward with an impeachment inquiry. We just had a record-breaking month of September for fundraising. We raised $27 million. It's a testament to our chairwoman, Ronna McDaniel, the president and his policies, but also a clear signal to us that people do not want to impeach this president. They're very upset that this is all the Democrats are focusing on. So we continue to do great with our fundraising figures as well as the Trump campaign. And the DNC only brought in about $6.9 million in September, but they have $7 million in debt. So they're still underwater. And that's going to allow us to basically have the resources for everyone in Texas, up and down the ticket from Senator Cornyn all the way down to your local races. And so they're just not going to be able to compete with us with our ground game and data operation in Texas and around the country.
Very good. Michael Joyce, Deputy Press Secretary with the RNC. Victimsofsocialism.org is the website everybody needs to go and check out and see those interviews and the video. They're at victimsofsocialism.org. Michael, as always, appreciate your time, and we'll visit with you next time.
Always a pleasure, Chad. Thanks.
Have a good one. That's Michael Joyce with the RNC here on the Chad Hasty Show, KFYO.